Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to thread an antique Gritzner sewing machine like this one. Mine is from about 1925. Now before we start, I am not an expert on antique sewing machines at all. I have just trying to search through the internet to figure out how to thread this machine, and I found some photos taken by a Danish photographer which showed a threaded machine like this one, both the top thread and the bobbin thread. So using those pictures as a starting point, I figured out how to do it. But your machine might be different. It might be that that photographer took pictures of a machine that was threaded in the wrong way. I can't know, but at least my machine works doing it like this. So let's get to it. Let's start by the top thread. And like on normal modern sewing machines, these here are for the top thread. And you would put it on like this. And now I'll just zoom in a bit because you might know this already, but there's an up and down to these thread rolls. It needs to be put so that you can read the letters. So the letters should be the right way up, not upside down. I'm not sure how much this means, but I took sewing lessons with a tailor who told me that this was important, so I suppose it is. Now, first thing, you need to get the thread through one of these little eyes out here. So let me just show you how to do that. Just get the thread and curl it through like this. There are two little eyelets, and I suppose that that's because there's room for two top threads. So if you use two top threads, then the second one, I guess, would go in the other eyelet. Then you need to get it around this little wheel here, and that thing controls the tension of the thread. And when you do this, you need to make sure that this lever is up, lifting the presser foot, because that will kind of make this wheel consists of two little plates. And when you lift the presser foot, then these two plates are moved a bit apart, so that the thread kind of gets in between, and it doesn't feel right when you do it because it can get quite stuck. But it's supposed to be that way. And if you thread your machine with the presser foot down, then your machine won't be able to sew. So lever up, and then you need to get your thread through this one, and that will move up and down when you are sewing. So I'm just taking the needle down a little bit, and then getting the thread through like this. Now the next thing, it needs to hold on to this little hook and then through the needle. So I'll just lift the needle up like that and get the thread through the little hook like this, and then through the needle. And that's done in the same way that you would do on a modern machine. like, just pull here, like this. So when the machine is threaded, it'll look like this. So that was the top thread. Now moving on to the bobbin thread. The bobbin for this kind of sewing machine looks like this. So it is not at all like the bobbin of a modern sewing machine. And it needs to go into this case. And this case looks a bit different from, for instance, the cases used for Singer antique sewing machines. So I have found that the instructions for inserting the bobbins into the cases for Singer sewing machines aren't really useful for this kind of Gritzner sewing machine. But I'm going to show you how it's done. First of all, like with modern bobbins, you need to put it into the case in the right way. So we need to figure out what's up and down. When you pull the thread, of the bobbin, then it should turn clockwise like this. And then this bit is up. On the case, the pointy bit is also up. And you can see here, I'm just pointing with my scissors, that there's a metal little tab here that you can press in. So the top end of your bobbin needs to press that tab in. Let me see if I can do that and you can see what I'm doing. The thing, yeah. And then it clicks right in, like you could maybe hear. So that's the way it's inserted, and you should check when you pull that it turns clockwise. Now, next, the thread needs to go around this little metal thing. That one right there. From the outside, it looks like this. So this metal bit. And that is done from the bottom of the casing. So you can see here that there's a crack and then the bottom of that metal thing. So what you do is you take the thread down that little crack and then anti-clockwise around the bar and then out. And then you will see the thread going around that little metal thing. And from the inside, you will see the thread. Let me just point with the scissors. You'll see the thread here coming kind of out of the case and coming back in up there. And it's important that it goes from the bottom up, because otherwise you've inserted your bobbin in the wrong direction. Now the next bit is a bit tricky. On the other side here you will see another little crack and a little kind of hole just there. So you need to get your thread down that hole or down that crack like this. And then I'll just turn it. Then the thread needs to go under this metal bit and come out down here. And I find that a bit tricky. I'm not sure how that's done, but I use my nails to kind of lift up this thing a bit and then kind of guide the thread underneath, but it's not easy. Like so. Then you can gently pull, and it's pretty hard to pull. Also with modern bobbins, you need to be able to hang it in free air like this in midair. But it's also supposed to, when you pull it, to be pretty easy to pull, and it isn't. But I think that it's correct anyway, because the machine sews quite nicely. So I'll just show you a bit what it looks like now that it's threaded. Now, how to insert the case into the machine. The bobbin goes under this little cover, and I figured out that this cover is attached to the machinery of the sewing machine. So if you can't pull it open easily, then it's probably because the needle is not completely down. So the needle needs to be completely down. And then this little container appears. I'll just show you when I turn the wheel. You can see the container is moved under the needle. And that's what happens when you sew. It'll be moved back and forth underneath the needle. And you can see that the cover is being pulled back as well. So if the needle is up like this, you won't be able to open the cover more than this. And you can see maybe you could see it, the little container coming back out. And of course you want it out in order to insert the little case for the bobbin. And it needs to be inserted this way, so pointy bit towards the needle. The opening should be facing yourself. This is the top, and this is the bottom. And then you can just slide it down like this. So the first times I tried, it was really hard to insert this bobbin case. And that was, of course, because I was doing it in the wrong way. So if you're doing it in the right way, it should just slide easily into the machine. Then you can just close this cover a bit. In my experience, it's good to have it just a bit open, because then you won't catch the thread. Now that we have inserted the case for the bobbin into the little container, of course we need to pull up the bobbin thread in order to be able to sew. And what I do is I hold on to the top thread with one hand, like you would do in a modern machine. And then I will turn the cradle handle once. Whoops. Well, that was more than once, but anywho. Like so. And then we are ready to sew, and we can close this cover. Then let's try and sew a bit, and then I will show you how to get the bobbin and the bobbin case out of the machine again, which is pretty neat. I have a fabric scrap here that I'm going to use to show you how the machine sews once it's threaded. Maybe I should just adjust the light a bit so that you can see better. There we are. I will lower the presser foot by lowering this little lever. And then, of course, I will sew by turning the cradle handle. So let's see. So it seems to sew along pretty nicely. So let's pretend that that's that. I will lift the presser foot and show you how it sews, because it is actually pretty neatly. Here's the top and the other side. How to get the case and the bobbin out of the machine. That's actually pretty neat. If you turn the cradle handle so that the needle is completely down, then you can open this cover, and you open it until it kind of stops by itself, and then you can pull it just slightly, and then the bobbin pops out. And now I only have one hand, but I can pull it right out like this. So that's pretty neat, I think. So that was how you would thread your Gritzner sewing machine. I hope that you will have a good time sewing on your antique machine.